This is Tech House and Speed.
The best story emerging from the Formula Drift season is how Chris Forsberg won his championship this year. It wasn't with big manufacturer checks. Instead, it came with big ingenuity from his team, Kevin Wells, Sergio Ramirez, and of course Chris. It started after last year with a 5th place finish in the points. Chris Forsberg Racing put their 4-year-old 350Z on a diet.
We took the car all the way down to the bare metal shell. Every last bit, of suspension, body panels, everything was taken off of the car, and it was stripped down of any and all possible extra metal, and we replaced every panel on the car with Save-On dry carbon fiber. Dry carbon versus wet carbon is actually almost half the weight, and wet carbon is almost half the weight of some fiberglass.
So you put your car on a diet?
Oh yeah, we knocked off over 100 pounds versus last year, and we're able to move some of the weight around back in the car to kind of make it more like the weight scales that we were reading last year. We did the best we could in the front end, but we still lost a larger percentage over the rear wheels than the front. So after that, we were able to kind of shift some of the weight around from the front to the rear. Just anything that was possible to move, we moved it back.
But while everyone else was building 600 to 800 horsepower sprint car motors, Forsberg's team went the other way. Some of you may have more power in your commuter car than Forsberg has under his hood, and he's a champion.
Does that help you with your reliability and so forth, and to run for a championship without having to worry about things breaking and motors blowing up?
Well, yes, of course. Trying to keep the car as simple as possible will obviously keep it as reliable as possible. Less parts such as superchargers or turbochargers is not only less strain on the motor, but just less possible moving parts to break on the engine. And so we just looked for as much power as we could make NA, and like I was saying, out of this motor with the raised compression and a little bit of head work, we're almost 400 wheel, but it's still a little down in power compared to most of those NA cars out there. Some of the other V8 sprint car motors that you're seeing, but we are just still running a pretty factory form of the 5.6 liter Titan engine. Our main point with the car was just to make the horsepower we can. We're spending way too much time and money trying to make like 500 or 600 horsepower. I mean, obviously that was everybody's goal, but with this power plant, we were going for reliability when we first put it in the car back in 2006, and then when everybody started to make horsepower, we tried to as well, and it just wasn't putting out the numbers that some of the other guys were. And so instead of just ripping it out and throwing in something else that'll make the power, we just went and focused on the suspension, and that's when we started having some of our best finishes. We are going to kind of keep that momentum. Instead of going for sheer horsepower, we're doing more effort into the suspension to just try and utilize as much of that 380 horsepower as we can.
To me, it makes sense where you're looking at a complete package, driver, car, equipment, as opposed to just power, so that all you have to do is mash on the gas and the car will go sideways and you're just hanging on at that point.
Yeah, I mean, we do the best we can to focus on having a reliable car, because if the car is not going to make it through the round, there's no way you can win the event. So instead of just going for sheer horsepower, we put much more of our effort into like steering angle, suspension, for grip and handling, and just good horsepower, but not astronomical numbers that are just tearing the engine apart. We're looking for 380 wheel horsepower out of this thing right now, and it runs off of pump gas, and it just seems like it's a much more reliable setup, so that if there's ever an issue, it's not going to cost us $30,000 to replace the engine. We don't have as much development time or money or whatever you want to call it into the engine. We're just looking for how to utilize the power that we have instead of just trying to make more and more and more.
And that's a championship recipe in any racing discipline. I'm Bill Wood for Tech House and Speed.
This is Tech House and Speed.